Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After we run you through the new news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. And how about them Dolphins, ladies and gentlemen, on a 4-game win streak? Not since 2016 have we went on a win streak like this. And I think this team is much better than that team was. Coaching, personnel, all of that stuff. This team is really good. I'm super excited to continue. Obviously, I think we're all hyped. This year's awesome. And it's going to just continue to get better because I think we have 8 games left. That's 8 more games we get to watch this team play. So that gets me even more excited. So let's get into the news you need to know about, ladies and gentlemen. And there's not a lot to talk about because there's not a lot. There's just not a lot to talk about. Obviously, we're going to get into the box score. But in terms of news you need to know about, the first news story we have comes from Pro Football Rumors, and Preston Williams is day to day with his foot injury. If I was a betting man, I would say he's probably not going to play against the Chargers. If I had to guess, it would be awesome if he could come back because the Dolphins have some issues at the receiver position, unfortunately, and offensively, I think they need to improve some things there, and we'll get into that when we get into the box score, but this is a big blow to the team. He was obviously a big part of that Cardinals game before he got hurt. And it was really nice to see them get more involved in the game plan because those last few games with Fitz, and obviously against the Rams, they were pretty much non-existent. So it was nice to see them get more involved, and that's something I was talking about. Even when we were playing the Jets, Fitz's last game, I was like, we really just didn't even attempt to get them involved. That game was more about the tight ends. Obviously, the Rams game, I was heavily critical of what Shane was doing. I thought it was way too conservative. I know that we were up in that game, but even when we were down 7, it was the same game plan. So it was nice to see them get more involved in this game against the Cardinals, and it's a huge blow because, like I said, even with Fitz, we weren't really getting them. I think this is the real first time. Not really the first time this year, but it was nice to see, okay, these guys are getting a lot more targets, especially on the outside, because I think Tua has a stronger arm, and I think we're going to do some more of that stuff. So hopefully we can get him back and get that going some more, because those two seemed like they were really connecting a little bit more. Even with Devontae Parker here in this game, seems like chemistry is starting to kind of develop there. And I think we, like I said, since Tua has a stronger arm, I think we're going to take a little bit more. I think we'd be a little bit more aggressive with some of those things. And it sucks that we lost him when we started to get that going. So, like I said, I don't know if he'll play against the Chargers. I would say that's probably doubtful if I had to guess. But he is day-to-day. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to the next story. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins are 9th currently in cap space. Okay, so I wanted to bring this up because they're going to be, I think, top 5 next year. And if they're not top 5, they're going to be very high. And the reason I want to bring this up is not only do the Dolphins have the Texans' first-round pick, and they have 2 2s as well, but they have a lot of cap space next year. And this is really setting up to be something very special. And I wanted to bring that up because of the momentum this team has right now, the coaching this team has right now, the quarterback that this team has right now. Everything is going in the right direction. This team could be I'm talking, I don't want to get too crazy too early, but it could turn into something very special, very quick, especially how this year is going. And I think this team's very good this year. I think out of all the 5-3 teams in the AFC right now, I think we could beat every single one of those teams. So where this is going is like I said, it's going somewhere very special, and they also have set themselves up in the near future to be very successful as well with the cap space, with the draft capital, with the decision making in the front office. This is going. I'm very, very excited about the future of the team. It hasn't been this bright in a long time. I would say, it has. I can't even think of a time really. And I think I've said this. It seems like I've been saying this a lot on the podcast. Let's just put it this way. It's been a very long time. I don't really want to pinpoint it, but this team, like I said, has an opportunity, and I think it will execute it to the highest it can, to the highest of their capabilities, because so far they've done such a good job, and it just gets you even more excited, the fact that they have this cap space, the fact that they have all this draft capital, the fact that they've done such a good job of developing the talent that they have acquired and acquiring good talent so far that these two have been together, and it's just going to get better from here, and it's just very, very exciting. So let's get into the box score, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to get into the box score, and I'm very excited to do so because there's a lot to talk about on both sides of the football. And I think we'll save the offense for last because I think that's what we're all really excited about. So we'll start with the defense. The Dolphins had, I think, a pretty good day, all things considered. And I think the shortcomings defensively and the reason the Cardinals scored so many points, you got to think, this is a team that's averaging 30 points at home. And we are one of the better defenses in the NFL right now. And I think a lot of the stuff that they did, and we're going to get into that right now after I read the stats, was really, I think the schematics, everything, the game plan was good. It's just we played a very good play. And I think that's, when you look back on some of the plays that they made, they're just good. They have good players too, I think is what I chalked that up to. I don't think it has anything to do schematically, anything. I thought the game plan was good. I thought the defense played good, and especially when they had to step up and make plays, they did. So I think it was overall, for what we needed in this game, a good defensive day despite the score. So let's look at the box score. Kyler Murray finished 21 of 26 passing, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was also their leading rusher with 11 carries in this game for 106 yards. And Chase Edmonds had 25 carries on 70 yards. They ran the ball a ton in this game, dude. A ton. And honestly, the predicament that puts you in is because not only are you have to worry about him running on design runs, but also in the pocket he runs, which is a lot of those yards as well. And not only that, they have a ton of speed on the outside, and they have DeAndre Hopkins, who's leading the NFL in receiving yards. So it's honest to God, pick your poison. And to be honest with you, you're not going to stop that every drive. They're going to score points. I don't care what defense you put out there, especially in the league right now. They're going to make their plays. It just, can you make plays when you need to make them? And I thought the Dolphins did that. Obviously, they did that. When they had to make the plays, when they had to get off the field, they did. And I feel like they got robbed a couple of times. And I want to get this out of the way before we break down some of the other things that I noticed defensively. The 4th and 1, by the way, this was a designed run, which the Dolphins did a great job of blowing up. It was a designed run to Kyler Murray, and you hear a lot of the pundits in national media right now saying, why didn't they run Kyler Murray on that last 4th and 1? Well, we can show you this play where they did run Kyler Murray on 4th and 1. They ended up getting bailed out on pass interference call, where the Dolphins, that was not a pass. And maybe I'm wrong, but I've seen it twice now. There's no way that was a pass. So they're on 4th and 1. They end up getting the pass interference call. And I think it ends up being offsetting penalties, and they just run a read option with Kyler Murray the next play, and they pick it up anyway. But this, to me, was a just terrible call by the refs. But the Dolphins did such a good job of blowing the run up. Then he has to scramble and throw the ball. It was a designed run, by the way, so there's not really anybody downfield other than DeAndre Hopkins. And I feel like they both, I thought X had position. I don't know if I can remember the play correctly, and maybe I'm completely wrong about this. I don't even think he touches him. He has his back turns towards him. So he's behind. X is in front of Hop. Hop is behind X. X is looking up at the ball, okay? To me, this is a bad call for a lot of different reasons, and it shouldn't have been thrown, in my opinion. And they kind of got bailed out on that one. But I wanted to bring that play up because it was a huge play in the game, and it completely turns the tide of the game. It's another example of good defense, in my opinion. And the refs, man, some of those, listen, I don't want to say all of those because some of the, like, I would say, I don't know if the majority of them, I would have to go back and look at them. Like the one he pushes him out of bounds. The one on 2nd and 12 was bad, though, on that short route. I thought that was just a very bad call again. But I would say some of them were legitimate. I'm not saying all of them weren't. But that 4th and 1 one bothered me a lot. I really don't think that flag should have been thrown. I don't think that was pass interference. And I think that was just kind of one of those situations where not only is it not designed as a pass, it's a broken play. Both of the guys are trying to get the ball. To me, that's not pass interference, in my opinion. But maybe I have to look at it again. I don't know. I just feel like, especially in the moment, it was just a bad call. But again, breaking down the defense, I thought from a schematic standpoint and definitely a play calling standpoint, I thought it was really good all day. Their answer, and we obviously got them on one early on. We had the strip sack fumble. Great play, Emmanuel Ogbah. The rush lanes were great. He had nowhere to hit. He can go inside or outside. It kind of just fell in the right place for us. And it really didn't do that, again. And I think their answer for that blitz package was, hey, Kyler Murray is just so fast that he can cut on a dime and outrun everybody that you're blitzing, and that's literally what he did. He just physically overcame our scheme. It wasn't anything mental that the Cardinals did in terms of adjusting, which I thought was interesting. It was really just, hey, our guy is so physically gifted that he can just overcome it physically, and that's what he did. And to the point where we couldn't blitz him anymore because he just did such a good job of cutting on a dime. I mean, one time we blitzed Brandon Jones, who's a safety, and he cut on a dime. And Brandon Jones is a very athletic player, and he just cut on a dime and he slipped and fell. I mean, it was over. Like, he is a once-in-a-lifetime type of guy when it comes to that kind of stuff. Only 2 guys in the league could have done that to that blitz, and that's probably, I would say, Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray. I don't even think Russell Wilson or Patrick Mahomes could have cut like that to get outside of the blitz like that, especially with the guys that we rushed him with, who are very athletic. So, honestly, hats off to Kyler Murray. Like I said, the Dolphins defense made plays when they had to. I thought overall it was a good day. They were I think the best team won today, in my opinion, even despite all those penalties as well. Just really hats off to the Dolphins defense for stepping up when they had to. And like I said, I don't think any schematic issues or anything like that. I just think they made plays with their playmakers, and that's really what it comes down to. I thought our game plan was good. The pick in the end zone that should have been intercepted, but obviously wasn't, and it was a toss-up, and then it obviously goes to the offense, touchdown. You would like to have that back. That should have been, that would have been a huge turnover in the game. But like I said, other than that, there was nothing really that I'm complaining about. Even if we had lost that game, let's say we lose that game, and I do this podcast right now, defensively, I would not have come out here and complained at all. I think what they did, like I said, was just, they have good players. They have one of the best offenses in the NFL right now. I think they average the most yards a game right now in the NFL. It's somewhere around 400, which is insane. They're very high in rushing and passing. So like I said, sometimes you have to kind of all right, this is a good team. And it is, and it's a very good offense. So like I said, I think the Dolphins defense made plays when they had to. And I think some of the shortcomings were just due to the fact that Kyler Murray is just very talented. And like I said, they rushed him 11 times. And Chris Sims brought something up very interesting. He does a game review. I highly recommend the show. It's very entertaining, especially if you're a football head. What he brought up was, this was the first time they really used they really ran power with him and ran him a lot in his entire NFL career. And that was an adjustment that we didn't see on film, and when we get into the game, that was one of their counters to some of that blitz stuff was, okay, we're just going to run quarterback power right at the blitz, and it worked. And that's one of the other reasons we couldn't blitz him. That's something that they haven't really done, and I think a lot of it has to do, especially with a 5'9" quarterback, you don't want to run him 10 times a game, and that's something that we just didn't see coming, and that's what he did. So, like I said, I'm not going to say it again. I thought overall the Dolphins defense did good, and they made the plays when they could, and when they had opportunities to make those plays. So let's go into the offensive side of the football, and this is obviously, I think, the highlight of the day. I don't know if I should start with the because there is actually some negatives to this that I want to get into that I noticed, and I don't know whose fault it is, but I want to start with this. I'm going to say I was wrong, because I've been praising Chan Gailey the entire year. I was hard on Chan Gailey last week, and I think deservingly so. I still think that game plan was bad. I know a lot of people brought up the fact, hey, I don't want to harp on this, because we're talking about the Cardinals right now. Because Chan did an amazing job in this game. But he was, I don't even want to say it. Who cares? I don't even care about that game. We're moving on to this Cardinals game. Chan Gailey did such a good job in this game. Utilized Jordan Howard to the best of his abilities when he was in the game. Like I said, Chan Gailey does a really good job of playing to player strengths, and you could see that, especially formationally. Like, if you see Jordan Howard in the game, well, we're under center. If you see, what was his name, Muhammad Ahmed, if we see him in the game, obviously we're going to be in the shotgun, and I can't wait for DeAndre Washington. Oh, I don't even think we got into those trades. Did we get into those trades last week? I'm not sure. If we did, that's a huge mistake on me. But yeah, the Dolphins obviously traded away Isaiah Ford, and they traded for DeAndre Washington from Kansas City, who I think is going to be really, really good in the spread scheme. When he had his best years was when Jack Del Rio was there in Oakland, and they did a lot of spread stuff, and I think he's a perfect fit for what we do in Miami. So, and back to what I was saying, Chan Gailey just does a very good job of getting putting people in the right places to succeed, and I think it shined in this game especially, and it shined all year. He's done such a good job with that. I just think he was too conservative against the Patriots and the Rams. That's really the only. Other than that, he's been dealing. I mean, he's been very, very good for us, and he's been one of the highlights of this year. So I just wanted to give Gailey as much praise as I could because, I mean, the play where we faked the double screen, that's an old school play, and Tua did, that's again something that Tua does well is manipulate the back end with his head, and it really plays to Tua's strengths. And when he does that, he obviously great design play, great play call. That's just a great example of Chan and good play design. And he hits, obviously, Durham Smythe over the middle. That sets up 1st and goal. So I wanted to say that first. Gailey did such a good job in this game. Really putting everybody in position to succeed. Red zone, Gailey has got to be one of the best play callers in the red zone. I don't know what our red zone numbers are this year, but I just feel like every time I get in the red zone, you're going to get a good play call pretty much every single time. Even if we don't score a touchdown, I feel like our play calling in the red zone has been very good since Gailey's got here. Like the Matt Collins call, like Matt Collins is the game. And then obviously again that's a great example. Okay, Matt Collins is a bigger receiver who's fast. And if you've seen some of those league practice footage stuff, Tua's been throwing to him. And again, just a very good observation from Gailey. Defense doesn't really expect that there, and he gave us one-on-one on the outside, and we took advantage of that. So, like I said, I think Gailey's doing such a good job. And Tua, let's start with the positives. Tua looked amazing in this game. And just like with the defense, you cannot overreact over a few games, especially defensively. I thought, and we're not even going to get into the reasons why that was going on, because I thought the defense got fairly unjudged because of Igbenogany. This is a good example of that as well, where, okay, Tua really dealt with not a very conservative, let's just put it this way, a very conservative game plan from Gailey against the Rams. We opened the offense up, and he showed you what he could do. He looked amazing in this game. Tua finished 20 of 28 passing, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 0 turnovers. He looked great. The quick release, the quick reads, everything you saw at Alabama, manipulating the back end of the defense, escapability, playmaking, all of that stuff he showed in this game. And the thing I love about Tua is his clutch factor. And obviously his accuracy is another thing I love about Tua. Tua's accuracy is ridiculous, and it showed. And I hate, and I'm kind of going all over the place, but I do want to. Tua's poise and his calmness and his, like I said, clutch factor, and him making plays when the team needs to be made. And I think the biggest compliment we can give him right now, especially in this game, Fitzpatrick does not win that game. I don't think it's even close. I think maybe he turns the ball over, one too many times, or he takes some of those sacks that Tua got out of. Like, I just don't think we win that game without Tua. And again, I think an underrated part of his game, and this is something that I wanted to get into, and this is something that Chris Simpson said a lot, and I don't think you really hear this a lot, but that, okay, can he make big-time NFL throws? And I think he showed that in this game. I don't think he's getting enough attention to that. He was down 7. He needed to score in I think this was in the 4th quarter, if I'm not mistaken. He did that, and the throws and plays that he made on that drive were NFL superstar level plays. And I don't think that's getting pointed out enough. The Devontae Parker on Patrick Peterson throw was amazing, and that was a superstar play. And that, obviously all of the scrambles, those are superstar level Pro Bowl quarterback plays that you want to see. And I just wanted to push back on that a little bit. And like how those plays that he made in the 4th quarter were big time. And I mean, like I said, and I've been on the Tua train since he was at Alabama, and I've been talking about him for years on this podcast. I love his game. I love what he brings to the table. And there's no doubt in my mind that I think he could be one of the best top 5 pocket passers in this league for years to come because of his skill set. And not only that, but he has very good playmaking ability. So I'm very excited for I can't wait to watch this team in general. This defense, Tua, it's so fun to watch. And I'm so excited to just continue to watch this team play. I mean, this team is good. It's fun. It's got obviously a very good quarterback at the helm, a very good defense, a very good head coach who every single week brings a stellar game plan, a good offensive coordinator who also does a very good job game planning. I just wanted to get the positive. I want to talk about the positive first because this just gets me very excited. And there's a whole lot more positive than there is negative. But I do want to get into some of the things that I'm interested to see how that develops from here. the number one thing I want to get into is blitz pickup. I don't understand what was going on in this game with that. And I think it had a lot to do with Austin Jackson coming back and really the reshuffling of the offensive line. I don't understand. We could not pick. Okay, so here's a good example of that. The DeAndre Campbell, when he comes up the middle and Tua shakes him and he jukes Budda Baker for the first down, which was amazing. That play should have been picked up easily, and that happened consistently in this game. That play should have easily been picked up. They only rushed 4. The guard literally double teams the defensive tackle and just lets him come up the middle. It's not like the Dolphins couldn't have blocked him. Okay, they easily could have blocked him. I know they didn't have a running back in there, but they only rushed 4. So I don't understand, and that was something that they struggled with the entire game. And I think it had a lot to do with maybe the offensive line shuffling, because they shuffled the line a lot in this game, and maybe a little bit too much. And I think that maybe it was the rookies. I'm not really sure. I don't know if it was Tua or Ted. Someone needs to correct that in the next game, because teams are going to notice that okay, this offensive line really struggled to pick up some of this pressure. And Vance Joseph is a very creative defensive coordinator, so I think maybe, I don't know, but I feel like that was a pretty simple blitz to pick up that they didn't, and that's something that they struggled with the entire game. I'm not really sure where that was coming from, or what was going on with that, but hopefully that gets corrected. And the other thing that bothers me about this team is Devontae Parker obviously came up big in this game, and I do think Tua being having a better arm, and maybe, I think I'm going to go ahead and say it, being the better quarterback, I think it lends itself to hopefully more targets downfield for some of these guys, because, Devontae and Preston, that's what they do best. But the lack of playmaking in the middle of the field is concerning for this offense, and that's something that it lacks. Mike Gesicki has to play better. He's been kind of a no-show. He came up with some big plays in this game, but he needs to be more. And this is something that he can't. This is one of the reasons he's not a consistent factor in the middle of the field, and he's more of a 50-50 guy and more of a. And this is something that I noticed coming out of college. I still think Mike's a very good tight end and one of the better receiving tight ends in the NFL, but he's not a safety blanket. He doesn't get down. One of the things he struggled with coming out of college is getting in and out of his breaks quicker. He's a very long strider. Okay, he's not the greatest route runner in the world. He is a matchup nightmare because of his speed and his size and his catch radius. That's what he does best, right? But when you need someone to run a route quick over the middle and be a good slot option, they don't have that on the roster right now. Malcolm Perry is not a polished receiver. Antonio Callaway didn't even play in this game, so I'm excited to see what he could bring to that role. But I'm like I've said many times, I think Preston Williams needs to play inside more, because I think he's probably the best route runner on the team right now. They miss somebody like that in the middle of the field, and it keeps coming up every single game that we play. And they need someone like that right now. And hopefully that DeAndre Washington, can bring a little bit of that and make people miss in the middle and give us a good receiving back option. Or play Patrick Laird there. They need to do something to fix it, because it is something, or maybe this is something that we're going to have to wait till next year to fix. But they just need a chain mover, basically, is what I'm going to say. They need someone who can get open quicker on some of these quick intermediate routes, because they don't really have that. If you look at Devontae Parker, Preston Williams' biggest plays, and DP made some plays on the intermediate stuff, obviously with the curl route, but that was just a good play by Tua. He was not open on that play. That was really good press coverage. And anybody else, if you're inaccurate a little bit on that, that's a pick six. So I don't know if that's a great example of that. And DP caught some balls over the middle in this game, and I hope that continues. But they need someone like a Devon Bess, like a Wes Welker, or someone in the middle of the field that can consistently win, and they just don't have that right now. And we need that. And hopefully Callaway can come in and provide some of that, or Malcolm Perry comes along. Maybe when Lynn Bowden comes off the COVID list, he can provide some of that. But that's something that this Dolphins team needs, and something that they need to address if it's not addressed this year, and if Callaway doesn't, and hopefully Callaway plays more. He is a very talented receiver. I didn't see him take a snap in this game, and maybe I'm wrong, and I need to go back and look at it, but That needs to be addressed because, like I said, really this offense is too samey with some of their personnel groupings. Like I said, Devontae and Preston, and I don't want to repeat what I'm saying, but Devontae and Preston, very similar, and Mike Gesicki is kind of similar to them too, and what he does well. So they need someone to do who brings something different to the table, and they just really don't have that right now. Hopefully they maybe switch some things around, maybe put Patrick Laird in the middle of the field, who I think is a very good receiving threat. And could give that to us, and hopefully we could try some of that, but we'll see. We'll see what the Dolphins do there. I do think that's a need, though, and that's kind of a shortcoming of this team. I think that's probably the biggest weakness of the team right now. If I had to get, the safeties are playing out of their mind. That used to be a perceived weakness. That's not. The defensive line and some of the big guys that we have in the middle, in the run defense, that's not a weakness. Offensive line is not a weakness. Really, yeah, the only weakness I see on this team is that, a glaring one that needs to be fixed, and we'll see what happens. And I don't know, we'll see. I think a lot of the outside stuff is great, but I think you can even tell in game with some of our biggest plays, not really in the middle of the field. A lot of it, like the Preston Williams post, some of the Mike Gesicki stuff. Okay, that was in the middle of the field a little bit, but most of his stuff is kind of on the outside as well. Like his 70-yarder against the 49ers was on a fake end corner route. We need the middle of the field needs to be peppered a little bit more, and we need someone who can do that. So let's move on to the thank you day. I can't believe I blanked out on the trades, but yeah, we traded Isaiah Ford away, and we traded for a 6th-round pick, and obviously we got DeAndre Washington from the Kansas City Chiefs, who I think is a very good fit for this offense. I'm excited to see that develop. We saw a little bit of Jakeem Grant a little bit, to shout Jakeem out a little bit. We saw him a little bit. We've seen him kind of show up a little bit more since Tua's gotten to the lineup. So we'll see where that goes. Maybe Jakeem can be that guy in the middle for us. We'll see. But let's move on to the thank you. Overall, a great game, great win, and it's a very, very good team. It's a very exciting team. It just makes me happy that we get to watch this team every Sunday. I'm excited, more than I've been. I'm excited to just watch the players on this team, and I can't say that, especially over the last 3 years. I'm just excited to see these guys play, it makes me happy. All right, let's move on to the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. I'm very excited for this, because it's obviously, especially these last 3 years, a lot of it's been oh my god, a lot of negative. It's nice that over these last few weeks it's been very positive. So let's get into the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. The first question comes from Scar. He says, "What's up, Skaggs? What are your thoughts on Kyler Murray? Kyler Murray just walking out the field after the game and not shaking anybody's hand?" Okay, this is something that media focuses on a lot, and it bothers me. If any of you are listening to this right now have lost something competitively that means a lot to you, you don't feel like shaking anyone's hand either, and I can respect a dude who doesn't do that. I can sympathize with it, I should say. I can sympathize with that. I understand it, and I'm not critical of it, because I'm okay, I think we've all been there in some way, and if that's what he doesn't want, and I don't think anybody's offended by that either. The only people who are offended by it are people that can talk about it who are observing it. It's okay, just because you don't feel that way in your life doesn't mean, and you don't react, and it's not a bad reaction in my opinion, just in my opinion. I think that's fine, and he literally was just in the heat of battle for 3 hours, and it all just came to an abrupt end, and it didn't go the way he wanted to, and he put his heart and soul into that game. For God's sakes, he played amazing. I get it why you don't shake someone's hand. I get that. It doesn't bother me. I don't think it's anything personal to Tua, because obviously they have a history, and it seems like they're good friends the way they talked about each other. So I don't think I don't know. It doesn't bother me. I noticed it, but I feel like you can understand it and sympathize with it, in my opinion. And I've always been that way with this kind of stuff. I think there's a difference between that and something like the Detroit Pistons did to the Chicago Bulls. I think that's completely different, in my opinion, than some of the stuff that you see in football. I think those are just completely two different scenarios in sports, in my opinion. And again, it varies between the person. If you're Deshaun Watson, if you're Russell Wilson, all right, you shake your hand, GG's, Drew Brees, all that. But some people aren't that way, and I understand those people, is what I'm saying. And it just doesn't bother me. It's not something I would sit here and harp on someone's character for, because I don't think that's a bad character thing, in my opinion. And that's something you see at ESPN and all these other craziness stuff and all that stuff. This question comes from Tech Me Out. He says, so many years of hardship. It feels great to be a Dolphins fan. I think this is exactly how everybody feels. I think the big, and to really answer your question, Tech Me Out, the thing that I think is the coolest thing about this is you are excited to see specific players play. You're excited to see this team play every week. It's different than being a Dolphins fan. All right, we're gonna watch the Dolphins this Sunday because that's just how it has been, over 10 plus years or however long you've been watching the team. That's different than it is now. It's a different feel. It's a different kind of excitement for this team, and I think that's the biggest difference. Like, it's just a different feeling, man. It really, really is, and it gets you pumped up, and I completely agree with that sentiment. Take me out. This next question comes from Tony. He says, what a game. I don't remember such a fun game to watch that could actually mean something. This team is awesome. And I think, again, same thing. I think it's the same feeling we all have right now, Tony, and it does feel amazing. This next question comes from Take Me Out. He says, did you notice that Murray left the field without shaking someone's hand? It's another question. Yeah, I did. It didn't bother me. This next question comes from Vegas. He says, question, can Tua be the best quarterback in the AFC East this year? I mean, he's got stiff competition. As much as I hate to say it, Josh Allen is having a good season. He had a very good year, or a very good game against the Seahawks, unfortunately, because we needed the Seahawks to win that game. He's having a good season. So, in all fairness to that, and objectiveness, and not subjectiveness, and biasness right now, I think he is the best quarterback in the AFC East right now. And he's playing like it. So, Tua, I think if he can continue this, there's a heated argument. You already know where I would side on it if it's that even. But Tua has to, obviously, to be fair to everybody, Tua has to, finish out the year, and we'll see where things. And I think he definitely will, in my opinion. He'll continue this great play. But yeah, Tua's definitely going to challenge it for sure. But right now I don't think we can crown him that. This next question comes from MC. He says, do you think Tua stepped up as an elite quarterback and handled himself properly, and was there anything obvious that he needs to work on? No, there's nothing he needs to work on. I think we discussed some of the shortcomings that I noticed in this game, and maybe that has a lot to do with Tua, and I know the quarterback, at least when Fitz was in there, I'm pretty sure he was calling protections. So, and again, we'll see. I just feel like that's something that I noticed. Maybe that's something that Tua does need to work on a little bit more. And that's obviously a rookie thing, is maybe getting the protections right a little. And that's something that he'll get better at. Or maybe if it's the center's job, I'm not really sure whose job that is. But that is something that I noticed. And I think a lot of it had to do with the offensive line getting shuffled like it was. So yeah, but nothing really there's definitely nothing Tua needs to work on. He's probably the biggest reason we won this game with some of those plays that he made. Like I said, the 39 throw when we were backed up is such an underrated throw and play. I mean, if we don't make that play right there, we don't win the game. This next question comes from Mark. He says, so clearly Tua just needs time to throw and an upgrade at the skill positions. In your opinion, who should those players be? I think it's just the middle of the field. They need a slot receiver, a big-time slot guy. I don't know who that is, who it will be in the future, and hopefully they have it on this roster right now with something, and I think Antonio Callaway is a very talented player, and we'll see where he is, obviously not having played football for a long time, coming off the suspension and the injury, but we'll see what happens with him, but that's definitely something that this team desperately needs. I wish we could go back in a time machine and steal Devon Best and just plug him in in this team right now, because that's something this team needs. To answer your question, Mark. This next question comes from SM. He says, this spread look really ignited the passing game. What needs to be accomplished to get the run game going? It won't get accomplished. I think it's a combination of not having a superstar running back in this offensive line. I don't understand what the problem is with this offensive line, because it has it has the capability of doing it, but it's just not what this team does well. It's like, okay, we could run 50 times a game, but the best thing this team does is pass the football. So how about we just do that? And I think that's kind of the reason why it's kind of muddled in a weird way. It's like, okay, we could do that, but let's just kind of, because we don't really stick with it that much, in my opinion. I think we stick with it enough, I guess, but not a lot, and I don't think we should either, because I think the best thing this team does is pass the football. And they're really good at it. It's just, and again, like I said, there are certain things that I wish we could fix when it comes to passing the football that would make it even better, but I still think we're a really good passing team. And again, that's the best thing we do is that spread look. And even last year with Chad O'Shea, we were really good at it. We just need to continue to do it, in my opinion. This next question comes from AMV. He says, Skaggs, you're a great guy. Love the show. Fins up. I appreciate that. He says, this could be biased, but I don't care what anyone says. X locked up D-Hop. For what I saw, those calls were mad questionable. Your thoughts? Yeah, some of them were, I would say. Especially the fourth one. That one's the one that bothered me the most. I think they're like, all right, maybe they saw something on tape the refs did, or I don't know. They're just the physical play that X has, or does. I don't know. And especially since D-Hop's a physical receiver, I think those two styles kind of clash with each other, and I think you could expect some flags when it comes to that kind of stuff, but some of them were definitely questionable. So I do agree with that. This next question comes from Beef. He says, hey, Skaggs, do you think the Dolphins' defense has to score in order to win from now on? No. For sure not. This defense is real. They definitely don't have to score to win like that every game. It was just, that particular game kind of just fell the way it did. And the defense, like I said, when it needed to, made those plays. This next question comes from, but this defense is really good and very talented. It just, Kyler is also very good. This next question comes from Beef. He says, hey, Skaggs, the season is halfway done. Miami's making a good winning trend, and Tua is playing and improving. My question is, who do you think is a very good adversary for Miami on the remaining schedule to really test the Dolphins as a worthy playoff team? This is a good question. I think some of the matchups that we have here coming up soon, like the Chargers and down the line the Bengals and the Jets, with pocket passers, they're going to have a very tough time. You have to be very athletic. I'm talking like Kyler Murray athletic to kind of get out of some of the split stuff, because the problem that this defense presents, and especially since the run defense is getting better, it's if you have a pocket passer, you're gonna have a tough time moving the football, like a very tough time against this defense. Almost an impossible tough time. I think some of the biggest issues this team is going to have, and even when we play Josh Allen again, I don't think he's going to be able to get out of some of this stuff. He's not the athlete that Kyler is. The only guy that could have gotten out of it in the NFL right now are Kyler and Lamar Jackson. That's it. I don't think anybody really can get out of this kind of stuff, and it's going to present a lot of problems for those quarterbacks. So I think, especially here on out, they're going to have a lot of issues with this defense, and I think it's a huge advantage for this Dolphins team. If I had to break it down like that, I just don't think, especially with the way that this defense is gelling with each other, it's going to be very tough for any of those quarterbacks to kind of get out of that stuff. So I think the most interesting, and I think the matchup, here are the most interesting matchups. How do we play New England? And that's from an offensive standpoint, not defensive standpoint. How does this team perform offensively against that secondary? And because this is a pass-first team, not a run-first team. And how does this team play the Bills again defensively? Are we aggressive? Because I think if we are aggressive in that game, we're winning that game handedly, in my opinion. And now that I think about it, since we do blitz so much, maybe their counters are going to be some of that quarterback power stuff that the Cardinals did. And how do we prepare for that? So I think the toughest matchups, I will say, are the Bills and Patriots that I've seen. And obviously the Chiefs, that's a tough matchup. So I would say those three teams are going to be the toughest games for us. This next question comes from Vegas. He says, can Jakeem Grant be a legitimate slot receiver? He did a good job yesterday. I don't know. He's got to be consistent for me to say that. We'll see. Hopefully he has all of the makings to be that. So we'll see how it goes from here on out. I'm excited about it. I think he definitely could be, for sure. This next question comes from SM. He says, both Gase and Flores took over their teams at the same time. Explain how some coaches get the best out of their players effort-wise while others don't. It's not just that. I think it's a combination of, first of all, if you're in that situation with a coach and he's yelling and screaming at you every day, it has to work. And if it doesn't work, then you lose your locker room. Everything, like the old saying is winning cures everything. It's true. It has to work. Everything has to work. Personnel, all of that stuff. It's not just the culture. It's picking the right players. It's scheming the right schemes. It's installing the right stuff. All of that is like a solar system where it just everything has to be in the right place all the time. It's not just one thing. And I think Brian is just and Chris are very good at they're just better at it than other people are. And obviously Adam Gase is not very good at everything has to be right. Not just one thing, not just one aspect, not just one thing. You can't just be good at this. Everything has to be in the right place. And Brian has done that, and obviously Adam Gase didn't do it when he was here, and hasn't done it when has been with the Jets so far. To answer your question, Sam, this next question comes from Josh. He says, thoughts on our defense this game? We bent, but when it counted most, we made the stops. Yeah, exactly. This defense is still very good. It's just Kyler Murray is very athletic. Let's just put it that way. This next question comes from Dog. He says, it wasn't pretty, but a win's a win. He said, what do you see from Tua today? What did you like to see? What do you like to see from the defense? What would you like to see from the defense? I wouldn't change any. I would have called the same plays they did. We were still aggressive on defense. We still did what we did well, and we had a good game plan for some of the stuff because there were times where we caught Kyler where he couldn't move, he couldn't scramble. A perfect example of that is when we should have picked off the ball with Byron Jones in the end zone. Brandon Jones was on him. Like, he could not have scrambled on that play. That play got blown up, and Kyler threw in double coverage, which is a bad play by him. That should have been a good play defensively, good scheme, good execution. They just got lucky. So I think that's kind of how the game kind of went. It's like, okay, here Kyler just made a play. Kyler just made a play. Kyler just made a play. It was a good game plan, like I said, all that stuff. It just sometimes when the play was there to be had, it was just a special play by Kyler or a pass interference call, one of the two. So yeah, I wouldn't honestly change anything we did defensively. And offensively, what we saw from Tua was just a franchise quarterback level performance where he had to make the plays. I don't want to say, and honestly, he kind of did carry the offense because the blitz pickups were awful all day, and he had to make plays because of that, and he did. And he had to make tough throws. 3rd and 9, you got to make a throw. If we punt here, we probably lose the game, and he made it. So Tua is the reason we won this game. And I think that's the biggest compliment you can give him. Let's see here. This next question comes from Take Me Out. He says, I wasn't a big Murray fan coming to the NFL since I thought he was a little too small. You were on board with Murray. I was definitely wrong. Yeah, he's a very good player. Very, very good. And we almost got him. If it wasn't for the Cardinals, if the Cardinals didn't pick him there, we had a trade in place to pick him with the 2nd overall pick. I believe it was with the 49ers. I can't remember who was picking 2nd that year, but whoever it was, it might have been the Giants. I'm not completely sure who was that high in the draft that year. But we actually had a trade in place to move up to pick him. So it's funny how things might have went differently. But yeah, that would have been interesting. Obviously, the Cardinals then just pulled the trigger on that one. This next case, Kyler right now is a top 10 quarterback, and I don't even think it's a debate. This next question comes from Josh. He says, any mistakes you noticed we should correct before facing the Chargers? Yeah, the blitz pickup stuff, that needs to be fixed. In terms of mistakes, defensively, just keep doing what you're doing, because I think it's a good game. What we do well, I think hurts the Chargers. And offensively, I just think it's that. Just pick up. We got to do a better job of picking those blitzes up, and hopefully, it's because of the shuffling of the offensive line and stuff that we've discussed earlier in the episode. We'll see how that ends up. Hopefully, it's not something that keeps plaguing the team because it wasn't a problem before, and we'll see how that continues to work out. This next question comes from K. Dot. He says, "Skaggs, keep up the great work. Thank you. Fins up. I know we have a long time until next year's draft, but who do you think should be our primary 4 targets in the first 2 rounds based on team needs? Receiver, if we get a big-time receiver, and I think obviously you know who I'm thinking about. I can never remember this dude's name, but he plays for LSU, and he will be a top 10 pick. I can't remember his name, but he's the receiver for LSU. Is it? I really like him a lot. So we'll see how that turns out. And I'm not really sure what kind of season. I'm basing this off of last year. I haven't really paid attention to LSU football at all this year, so I'm not really sure if is he still playing at that level? Because if he is, he'll be a top 10 pick. If he's kind of dropped off a little bit because the quarterback play isn't as good, then maybe he falls a little bit, but I really like him. I think receiver, a slot, someone we can fit in the middle and just gives us a different type of receiver, I think would help out a lot. So I think that's what comes to mind. Other things, I don't know really, because I like where the safety room is going, because Brandon Jones has a bright future, but and Eric Rowe's really good. I don't know what you would do, honestly. Maybe you get another defensive tackle in that rotation, maybe another outside linebacker as a pass rusher. I'm not really sure what you would do. I think some of those things would be good ideas, but there's not really a huge glaring need right now, other than that's what I was talking about with the receiver position. All right, let's move on here. This next question comes from Beef. He says, next week is Miami versus LA, Tua versus Herbert. Do you see this upcoming game as an intense quarterback face-off between two first-round picks? A must-see. I don't think it's going to be a shootout. I don't think so. It's definitely going to be a lower-scoring game. I just don't think... I think we match up really well defensively with them. I don't think Herbert is going to be able to fit... He's going to have to mentally beat our blitz, and they're going to have a game plan. And I don't think that coaching staff is I think it's one of the worst in the NFL, in my opinion. So I think we're going to have a pretty big advantage against them, in my opinion, because of those things. So we'll see how things end up shaking out, but I think those two things are huge disadvantages for them. This next question comes from Take Me Out. He says, my game ball goes to Coach Flo. When the Cardinals lined up for the field goal and suddenly shifted to a normal set, Flo was heads up and enough to get a quick timeout. The Cardinals had what they wanted and may very well have put up 7. What awareness, I believe that made the difference between a win and a loss. Yeah, Coach Flo did a really good job all game with stuff like that, and he's just he's Coach of the Year so far this year. He's one of the best coaches in the NFL. This next question comes from Vegas. He says, question, Tua's accuracy, ball placement, and decision-making prove Flores made the right choice, and his arm strength. I think that's something underrated about his game. He has a stronger arm than Fitz does. Going to Tua at the bye, because we don't win that game with Fitz, in my opinion. Do you agree? Absolutely, we don't win that game with Fitz. Especially if we had some of those issues protection-wise. Like, Tua is the reason we won that game, and I don't think Fitz makes those same plays. This next question comes from Josh. He says, amazing game, key takeaways from Tua's performance, and what grade do you give him? An A+. Fourth quarter comeback, he was down 7. Some of the plays that he made for some of the deficiencies of that, and some of the throws that he made, especially that 3rd and 9, I would give him an A+. I couldn't have said, oh, Tua should have done that differently. There's nothing that I think Tua should have done differently. This next question comes from Hidden Leaf. Shout out to Naruto. He says, do you think Tua is going to become better than Dan Marino? Or do you think he's actually going to get a ring or two with Dan's stats? I know it's too early, but I mean, dang. I don't know about all that. I'm not going to comment on that. That's obviously a wait and see thing. There's nothing really else to be said. Dan Marino is one of the best players of all time. He's underratedly good. I think Patrick Mahomes just broke his record for youngest to 100 touchdowns, and Dan held that record, and I think he just broke it. So that goes to show you how special Dan Marino was. That Patrick Mahomes is the one who broke that record. That's the level that he was on, and something that we really haven't seen before. So that's how dominant Dan Marino was. So we'll see where Tua goes from here. But Dan was a special player and underratedly dominant, and people forget about that. This next question comes from Beef. He says, hey, Skaggs, the Miami Dolphins have been in sports media a lot, especially talking how Flores is auditioning Tua as a long-term quarterback. Most of them say that if Tua doesn't meet expectations, he'll be traded for a number 1 pick for another quarterback. My question is, should we believe these rumors or don't listen to the media because they're just hate? No, they're literally just coming up with stuff. Don't listen. It's no credibility to that at all. If you listen to Flores's press conference, and we talked about this on a previous episode of bringing up other instances where the media was completely wrong and is still completely wrong and still continue to say stuff that is factually incorrect, then we've already talked about that stuff. But yeah, a lot of that stuff is just a bunch of baloney. This question comes from Adam. He says, what position would you draft first in this upcoming draft, or would you draft, or who would you draft with our first round pick? I really want to pick. I just want to Google this dude. If you guys will bear with me. Is it Christian that's not... I think that's a different dude, man. LSU's wide receiver, Chase. Yeah, okay, here we go. This is his name. Jamar Chase. There you go. What is he looking like right now? What are your stats, Jamar Chase? Because last year, to me, he was the best player on their best receiver, and they had Justin Jefferson on there. Is he not playing this year, or what's going on with that? I haven't paid attention to college football that much this season. Hold on. Okay, we're gonna move on from this because I don't want to stick on this for too long. So he opted out because of COVID. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I like Jamar Chase. I would pick Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase is going to be one of the best receivers for a long time. So if I had to pick one guy, it would be Jamar Chase, from what I've seen from him. Let's see here. This next question comes from SM. He says, if we lose Fitzpatrick to retirement or otherwise, who do you think will back up Tua, another rookie quarterback or a veteran? Probably a veteran quarterback, if I had to guess. This next question comes from Richard. He says, Matt Collins making the big touchdown pass. I hope he gets more reps. He has the size, speed to be a deep threat down the field. Here's the problem with that, though. He's literally like the two other guys that are in front of him. That's what I'm saying. Like, we have a lot of like this. All right, his skill set's the same as him. It's like, well, what the heck? Like, he just brings the same stuff those other guys do. And I do want to see Matt Collins because I do think he has a little bit more speed than DP and Preston, but he doesn't give us what we need, and I think that's the reason he doesn't get more playing time. But it's nice to see him get some targets and some playing time, and him making that touchdown was pretty awesome. This next question comes from Beef. He says, very awesome win today for the Dolphins. We looked like we had it in the first half, then started to struggle in the second half. Do you think today's victory is owed to Brian Flores because he was short-staffed with COVID? Yes, I think a lot of it goes to Brian and Tua for sure. This next question comes from MI. He says, bro, we are going to the playoffs. We're going to be a great team before it's all said and done. We are ready yet. The team looks very good. This next question comes from SM. He says, a mobile quarterback gives the defense trouble. How would you combat this considering the large number of quarterbacks that are dynamic runners/passers? I would do the same thing. The thing is Kyler is so athletic that like he's, like I said, him and Lamar are really the only ones that get away from that blitz. Other guys aren't that athletic. They are, but I think some of the blitz stuff that we do does counter them big time. We'll see how that ends up playing out. But I like what our game plan is usually for other mobile quarterbacks. Just like the reason that Josh had such a good game earlier in the year is because it really was with his arm. He didn't really kill us a lot with his legs. And it had a lot to do with Igbenogany. So we'll see, and because we couldn't be aggressive, we couldn't do that blitz package. So. What is the question? I think we combat it well enough with some of the stuff that we do. I just think Kyler is just he's just a different animal. This next question comes from Fabiola. He says, I've been a fan of the podcast since you started it. Just got released from doing 10 months. But I want to ask you, what did you think about those calls against Xavier and the way Byron played? Thank you for those kind words, and hopefully you're good to go after those 10 months, but you're doing well. What's the question? Okay, so X is, I think a lot of those penalties were, especially the fourth one, that one's the one that bothered me the most because of the meaning of it, and I thought that was just really good defense, but yeah, it is what it is, but Byron, he was put in a tough spot. Christian Kirk, he's a very fast receiver, I think they're both still playing very well. I don't think, they have, I think just you have to chalk it up to, they make plays too. This question comes from SM. He says, Malcolm Perry got into the game, but not the wide receiver Callaway. Thoughts? Yeah, I just think that she's just probably not ready yet. I would say that's probably what it is. But yeah, Malcolm, we'll see his development, but I don't know how polished he is to be a good slot receiver. This next question comes from Dennis. He says, Skaggs, we're all the Tua haters now. I love listening to the national media eat crow. Let's go Finns. Great work. Love the show. Thank you, Dennis. And you're right. You're completely right about that. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, Tua showed on back-to-back drives that he can get us down the field in critical moments. And what else might he need so you're asking me what he might need to get better at. There's nothing that I saw that I'm like, okay, he needs to do this better, in my opinion. So I didn't see anything. I mean, literally, there was no negatives to what he did on Sunday. He just kept making play after play. Now I don't know whose fault the pass stuff, the pass blitz pickup stuff was. I don't know, and maybe that's something that it needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but. We'll see. And I think a lot of it had to do with the offensive line. And we'll see if that continues to hamper the team. Because it wasn't a problem earlier. So we'll see what's going on with that. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, how do you feel about our zero blitz package? Is it sometimes too risky? No, it's not. It's not... the thing about that is, it's not... Most of the time, it isn't zero coverage. A lot of the time, we're dropping people back in coverage. And we'll rush 4 and still get home because of the offensive line's confusion, and the quarterback's confusion is even worse because he's prone to interceptions in some of those cases. The reason we couldn't do it a lot against Kyler is because, excuse me, and we do play a lot of cover 1, which is just a single high safety and a robber in the middle. But zero coverage is obviously different and again, a lot of the time, even though we line up like that, it isn't that. And I don't think it's too risky. I think that's good defense and good game planning, in my opinion. I think it puts a lot of pressure on an offensive play caller and a quarterback. So I don't think it's too risky at all. Every defense is technically risky. You're going to give up 7 at some point in a year or in a game. It happens. So every defense is risky in its own way. Even if you're playing a super conservative cover 2 shell or something like that, a busted coverage could happen, or a really good athlete just makes a play. It's a part of the game, so I don't think it's too risky at all, in my opinion. This next question comes from David. He says, "Oh God, this is a long one." He says, "Hey Skag, saw a tweet that stated this was the most meaningful win for the Dolphins in the past 12 years. At first, I thought it was an overreaction, but maybe not. For me, this really solidified a few things. One, we have one of the best head coaches in the NFL. Yes, it's not even close. Number 2, we may have a young franchise quarterback. What does this win say to you about your Miami Dolphins organization?" Brian has already proved that to me, especially after the Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay games. The Tua thing, I've always been on the Tua wagon, so it doesn't really change. Like, I know he's a franchise quarterback, and I know he's going to be that. It didn't really change anything. Like, I guess it's like, okay, this cements what I've been saying, and I think it proves it. Like, here's the evidence. This is why he is, and it kind of showcases my belief in him. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. But yeah, I mean, it feels good to be a Dolphins fan right now. This next question comes from KC Fanatic. He says, "Hey Skags, what do you think why do you think..." Let me get closer. I have this thing way too far away. He says, "Why do you think we are always disrespected in the power ratings, ratings or rankings? Sports commentators and ESPN, it seems to me, I heard you allude to the fact that they really do not watch the Dolphins and follow the crowd. Your thoughts?" Yes, a lot of it is that. A lot of it is just like, and not even just the Dolphins, just the NFL in general. A lot of people are box score guys or PFF guys or Pro Football Focus guys where they'll just look at something and just think that's what it is. And if you watch, I'm not joking around, if you actually watch games, it's different than what the stats say. Like, someone can have a good game or have a bad game, and it on the stats it's like, oh, this guy had a bad game. If you watch the game, it's like, oh, this was not even his fault. It had to do with all of these other things. Like, that's why you have to watch the games. And a lot of people don't. And, I don't understand why, especially if it's your job at ESPN to watch a football game, for God's sakes, why a lot of the times, and again, there's a big difference. Like, if you watch ESPN, and let's say you're watching Get Up or something like that, and then you watch Chris Sims' show where he actually breaks down games and stuff like that, it's completely different. And he'll say something completely different than what someone's saying on ESPN. It's like they watch 2 different games, and there's a reason for that. It's because they're not actually watching the games. They're just looking at box scores, and maybe they read an article, or maybe they are looking at Pro Football Focus and like, oh, this guy, like Tyson Alualu, I think, is the number 1 ranked defensive tackle on Pro Football Focus ranking. He is not the best defensive tackle. He's not the best interior lineman in the NFL. That's not even close. Like, Aaron Donald is. So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like, yes, Aaron Donald, and I want to make this clear, I know Aaron Donald, he moves to defensive end interior line, but he does play in the interior the most. And so, like, stuff like that is, it is what it is. So that has been, again, my throat is killing me. I don't know why. I'm going to have to end it here, guys. My throat is, I don't know what's going on with that, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it and breaking it down for you guys. It's a real treat to do so, and I will see you guys in the next one.